G'day folks, hope everyone's been keeping nice and dry. There's been a lot of rain in this part of the world. I'm out today with Shad, my faithful companion. Can't see him because he's out of camera shot, and we're just doing a little bit of a day trip. What I want to show you today are just those basic things if you're going to do a little bit of a wander through the Australian bush. Things that I would suggest that you might need to take with you. Let's have a look. G'day folks, what we're going to do is have a look at the equipment that I would recommend that you carry on those day hikes. One of the most important things is in regards to the weight. Common rule of thumb is if it's a day hike and you're going to be walking more than a couple of kilometres, then you don't want it any more than 10% of your body weight. And for me, I actually use that as very much the upper limit. I try and keep it down as light as I possibly can. Because remember, bushwalking is about relaxing and enjoying yourself. If there is a fitness component there too, well, fill your boots, carry as much as you want to. But again, as I said, my recommendation is 10% of your body weight or less. With the equipment, let's start with what you're going to wear. Let's have a look at hats. Hats can be a bit contentious as to the size and what they should be. My preference is a cap, and in this case it's actually a kepi. It has a bit at the back which will cover the back of my neck. The brim, not too rigid, shades the eyes, big enough still to pull down over these elephant ears of mine. Why a hat? Well, for the sun is the obvious reason, but in those areas, if it's rainforest or quite thick bush, it's not so much the sun you're concerned about, it's things that might literally fall out of the trees, insects, those sorts of things. It just protects the top of your head. As I said, caps, hats are not for everyone, but my recommendation is that you have one, and if it's cooler, then a beanie type cap is not a bad way to go. Shirts. This is a long sleeve shirt which I roll up, and that's the beauty. You can roll it up or put it down, and again in regards to the sun, it's made of a lightweight material, synthetic material. If this shirt gets soaking wet, the rain stops or I fell in the river or whatever it happens to be, they don't take long to dry. I recommend an undershirt of some sort that'll stop any rubbing that'll go on, and then pants made of the same sort of material. Again, they are readily available and inexpensive. Colouring, that's up to you. I tend to go for light tones, but there is a lot that sort of says, okay, I need high visibility type things, particularly if I'm doing a lot of lone walking and there is a chance that I actually might need somebody else to come out and try and find me. So that's a real consideration. Probably the most important piece of kit are your boots or your shoes. Now they need to be comfortable and they need to be sturdy. Ideally they should provide some sort of ankle support, and I'll show you in fact some stills of sorts of boots that I've been using for a long time. I mean a long time. Boots, you can pay lots and lots, or you can actually get them under quite reasonable sort of prices. It depends on how often you're going to use them and what sort of punishment you're going to put them through. With your boots, you get down to your socks. Good quality socks are worth their weight in gold. Now with socks, I recommend, particularly if you're new to bushwalking or to walking fair distances, is to actually wear two pairs of socks. The first pair of socks, very light, nylon or synthetic again, which is against the skin, and then over that probably a woolen type sock which will provide support. The idea of the two pairs of socks is that you get the friction between the socks and not the socks and the soles or the sides of your feet. So far better to get that wear and tear between the socks than it is to actually have something which is going to develop blisters. and those sorts of things. A small blister on a hike will just make your life a misery. Okay, let's start to have a look at the equipment itself. Now, you don't need all of this equipment. Some of it's a double up, particularly in the packs in those areas. But what I'll do is I'll go through and I'll explain why I take each piece of this equipment or why I may discard it. Okay, a backpack for the day. These come in all shapes and sizes and cost. So again, if you're trying to keep your costs down, have a look around. There are a plethora of different types of pack, different qualities and those sorts of things. This is one that I purchased quite recently. Again, it was a Chinese import. It's from Temu. It's a 20 litre waterproof pack. These are becoming quite popular. It's really just a big waterproof bag that you can throw everything into. The straps aren't too bad. My recommendation might be to pad them up a little bit. But again, if you're just getting into this for the first time, these are not expensive. I think this was about $20, if that, which is not too bad. And if I don't like it as a pack, it makes a good waterproof bag just to throw stuff in the back of the car and those sorts of things. So not a bad investment. My preferred pack is this one. Now again, small pack. I've modified it slightly and I've actually combined it with a vest. The beauty of the vest is that it distributes the weight across the entire body, makes it comfortable and easy to wear. It's a breathable vest, lots and lots of micro holes in there, and so it doesn't get overly warm. I've used this for a number of years and it is my preferred to go to. Pockets on this, really two main compartments and a couple of outside pockets. The outside pockets I use exclusively for first aid. Why the outside pockets? So I can get to that stuff quickly if I should need it. While we're talking about first aid, what constitutes a first aid kit? These sorts of things you buy, again, inexpensively, but is it a first aid kit? Not really. All it contains, a couple of swabs, they're not bad, and a couple of band-aids. And to be quite honest, folks, if you're out walking and you need a band-aid, well, okay, it's a small cut. It's not going to be something which is actually going to support a major wound of some sort. That being the case, what I do carry, yes, a couple of band-aids. You can get your hands on one of these. It's a military field dressing. That's for a major wound. Most importantly, a purpose-made snake bandage, and I'll talk a little bit more about this in a minute. Couple of linen slings. Now these can be used as a sling, they can be used to restrict the flow of blood on an open wound if you need to. They can be used to pack a wound if it's that bad. They can be provided support for splints and those sorts of things. Splints. This is one of the new synthetic form splint. They are excellent. All they simply do is conform to the shape of the leg or the arm or the area that needs splinting. There are instructions on the back. These again are not expensive and they are worth their weight in gold. Some antibacterial wipes. There's some nasty germs out there. Just clean your hands before you start the first aid treatment. And again, a couple of these bandages. The snakebite bandage. These have their own sets of instructions and they are designed, and I'll show you how in fact, or how tight you need to put a bandage on should somebody suffer a snake or spider bite. They're non-evasive, and they're a great piece of kit to have as your first aid kit. Other things, not in any particular order, but for comfort. Foam rubber pad. What's that all about? Invariably when you go out anywhere in the bush and you want to sit down, it's going to be damp. So instead of getting a wet bum, you simply put this down and you're going to keep dry. Particularly for things like when you get old like I am, for knees, okay? Not everybody's into yoga and that they can do all those sorts of things, but this is not a bad way to go. These again can be purchased from places like Bunnings, Kmart, definitely your eBays, Temus, all those sorts of things. They're a couple of dollars. And if it gets damaged or whatever, you can throw it away, get another one. Great piece of kit. What else do I need in my kit? An emergency shelter. This is a small tarp. It's a 1.4 by 1.9 metre, not particularly big, but then again, I'm not all that tall. So, good little shelter. And in here, I've got some cordage and a couple of pegs to put it down. It's emergency use only. Some cordage. You can never have too much cordage when you're in the bush. And again, it weighs very little. Somewhere between 10 and 15 metres is all you need, and again, it's for emergency use. These have become very, very popular in recent times. It's an emergency bivvy. So in essence, it's a bag that you put yourself in should conditions get very, very poor very, very quickly, or you have to stay in the bush overnight when you weren't expecting to. Won't be the most comfortable night, but these things will keep you warm and reasonably dry for what they are. Emergency rations. There's nothing worse again than getting caught overnight and being hungry and thirsty. All these are, these ones are nice and natural nutty bars. Whatever floats your boat in regards to things that'll keep your energy up. So chocolates, high carbohydrate type foods, not the sort of thing you're going to be making a proper meal out of, but the munchies will keep you going, boost morale, and again, they are there for emergency. The beauty with these, they virtually last forever. A little bit of beef jerky if you want something as a variety. Small, inexpensive torch. This is a head torch, and again, if you get caught at night, you want to be able to see what you're doing whilst you set yourself up, and also can be used to alert other people. On a pitch black, in the bush night, it is surprising how far away you can see something like a small flashlight. A fire kit. Now I'll talk about this at the end of this video in a bit more detail. What is a fire kit? It's just multiple ways of starting a fire. A brew kit. Yes, some tea, coffee, bit of sugar, cup of tea in those sort of situations where you have to stay out. It's it's a real morale booster. One of these new micro towels. These are great. Hot days, unexpectedly get wet, just make you a bit more comfortable in drying off or whatever it happens to be. Again, they're very, very light. The essential things for these day hikes: water. Bottled water is readily available, and the beauty with this is, once I've opened it and used it, I can use it again. If I want my water cold for my day hike, I just put it in the fridge the night before. If I want it really cold, I might put one in the freezer, freeze it, let it melt down during the day. But 2 or 3 of these are what you actually need. I recommend, again, for a standard day hike, at the very least, 2 to possibly 3 litres of water. What you have to remember is that water weighs about 1 kilo per litre. So 3 litres, 3 kilos of weight. That weight's going to go down gradually as you use the water during the day, but that's a consideration. Another consideration is how do I, if I need to, gather water whilst I actually on the hike. This is a filter bottle. It's a Brita, B-R-I-T-A bottle. It has an inbuilt filter in it. I would be using this after I boil the water. Always boil water that's been gathered in anywhere in the bush, and then put it through the filter device on this. These will get out the vast majority of the bugs and the sediment and those sorts of things, and the boiling of it will kill most of the bacteria. It's a backup. If you really have a tummy that's susceptible to any of those bugs, I would also recommend using things like aquatabs. There's a whole range of pieces of equipment that are available now, and again, I keep on harping on this, but they're not expensive, that will help you, in fact, filter and sanitize the water that you're going to use. What else do you need? Well, as a backup, again, it's a water container. There's about half a litre that I can carry in that. A metal cup that I can use to boil my water in or make my brew. And this is a little twig stove device that I can use without having to start a bushfire to boil my water or heat my water up. These come as a bit of a kit. All fit together, and they can sometimes fit inside a case as well. I just tend to remove the case, put this straight into the pack, because then I don't have the bulk and I don't have the extra weight of the case. Last few things, small umbrella. Great way of keeping dry. And if the weather's possibly going to change, this is just a shower-proof coat, which again will help keep me warm. What else should I be taking with me? Okay, last but by no means least, navigation equipment. I never ever go into the bush unless I have a picture of where I'm going, a map of some sort. There's a whole range of things we can do with this, and in a future video I'll go into a lot more detail about navigation. A map with some notation on it. I'll make 2 copies of this. One I'll leave with somebody because I've told them where I'm going to go, and one I'll obviously take with me. Compass, or quite often nowadays, a GPS. These are getting less and less costly. This one is very old. It was one of the first GPSs, and it cost me an arm and a leg. But it still works, it still does exactly what it's meant to do. Hiking poles or trekking poles. They're not for everyone, but I've grown to actually appreciate the utility that these devices have. Just makes walking on uneven ground a bit more stable. I tend to take 2. I normally only actually use one, and I have the other one there. Why? Because these actually form great tent poles. A structure for, you know, I can use as my emergency shelter. Gaiters. I'll do a little bit of a separate video on gaiters. They're not for everyone, but depending on the terrain that you're going through, they will in fact help keep things getting up inside your trousers, whether they be leeches, whether they be spiders, ticks, those sorts of things that you can encounter at different times of year in different types of terrain. So they're the sorts of things. One of the questions I'm often asked is, oh, what about a knife? My answer to that is, if you really think that it's needed and you can justify it to the police officer who's pulled you over and saying, sir, why are you carrying that knife, then by all means go for it. My preference is a multi-tool. It does have a knife on it, but I can use it for a whole range of different tasks. Pliers for undoing things, for picking up hot things if I use them in the fire, repairing stuff and so on. And if I actually need to cut any of the timber around me and small twigs, a pair of secateurs. You're less likely to create a stir if you pull out a pair of secateurs to do a little bit of bushcraft than you are to pull out that Rambo or Bowie knife. As I said, knives are a great utility and a great tool, but you need to know where to use them, how to use them, and yeah, basically, as I said, be in a position that you can justify while you're carrying such a device with you. Well, that's about it for this particular video. Thanks very much for everyone's support that I've had on the last couple of videos I've put out there. I've actually been blown away with the number of views and the number of subscriptions. It's great, it really is, just to get that acknowledgement. I enjoy the comments that I get, and I reply to all of them at this particular stage. There's not that many of them, but the ones that I get through I can reply to and hopefully answer your questions. If you do have any questions, don't forget to put them into the comments section. Drop me a line. It's all there on the YouTube page, on the channel. Don't forget, if this is the first time you've come across this, look at Popper's Adventures. It'll bring up the list of the 3 or 4 videos that I've already put together, all quite amateurish, but that's the way it is. I'm definitely not a professional when it comes to this. Guys, thanks very much, as I said, for your support, and looking forward to the next video. At this stage, I'm still planning to try and get a video out once a week, and let's see how we go with that. Before we say goodbye, we need to say goodbye to my faithful friend. Shad's been sitting here very patiently, just watching what I'm doing. Great companion. Oh, and by the way, if you are going to take your dog with you, make sure that you actually take some water and some food for him or her. Okay guys, catch you later. TTFN, bye. And what did it all weigh? Okay, I weighed it out, 5 3/4 kilos, so just under 6 kilos for that load there, and 2.5 of that is water. So there's 2.5 kilos of water alone in that pack. Could you leave out some of those things? Of course, that's the decision, up to you. But it's the sort of thing that I typically will take on a day hike, regardless of where I'm going, who I'm with, or whatever. Why? Because I like to make sure that I'm reasonably well prepared. Just another point on that, I don't leave it always just in the pack. I empty the pack out, make sure all the items are clean, checked, are serviceable, and I repack before every adventure. Okay, catch us all next time. Keep safe.